Your Highness, I am using this opportunity to have you here in Poland, and knowing your huge contribution to the Christian world. You were only to mention that you were advisor to John Paul II, and you know a lot about the European and world politics. We're in a very difficult situation. I mean Poland right now, because we are very much criticized from all the countries, from the European Union authorities, that we are doing wrong, that something is going wrong in Poland, that even when compared to the kind of dictatorship like dictatorship of Franco or dictatorship of Salazar or even to the Nazi Germany. So how you see it from your perspective? What's happening in Europe that there is such a division and clash between, for example, the countries like Poland, Hungary, and the rest of Europe, the more liberal Europe?
I think you must take it as a huge compliment when people attack you. It means that you're saying something important. You're doing something important. And let's look at someone who was immensely criticized is Christ. Jesus Christ, who was more persecuted than he was. And they haven't started to killing us yet. So, let's just stand up for what we think is right. And the grassroots people instinctively know is right. It is not right to ruin your own country and let it be invaded by people who don't even appreciate us, who have a different culture, who want to abolish the churches we have. And I think it's about time we put our foot down to the European Union, because I cannot understand how they dare to criticize a country like Poland.
Yes, and you mentioned about this invasion of the people from the completely different cultures. Yes, I think that really Europe has very deep problems. Only to mention this migration crisis, and also mention the economic crisis. What do you think? What is the main problem? How could you describe the problem of Europe, problem of European Union?
Well, if I address the migration crisis first, we got to admit it was actually caused by these stupid interventions Christians were better off under Saddam Hussein, under Colonel Gaddafi, under Mubarak, and even under Assad. It was these interventions with pouring weapons into Libya, for example, that always like the force of gravity went down to Mali, then you have another problem in Mali. And when I think about how could we dare to think we knew what these people need. We say, the rebels in Libya are suffering. And look at them now, the total chaos. And it was caused by these interventions. And, it's very dangerous to think we know better than them. So that's how it all starts. And then, with the total chaos in North Africa, we also have another contributor. It's not Mutti Merkel who said herzlich willkommen to 20 million Muslims. She may face her guilt when she faces her maker one day, because that was a really unwise thing to do, if I try to be charitable with my adjectives. But it was actually the European Union who for the last 15 years have planned that we shall accept people from what they call our neighborhood countries. I do not think Morocco is my neighborhood country, nor is Uzbekistan or Moldova. And as far as Moldova and Uzbekistan, we have a bear in the east that we got to respect. I'd like to stop the Poles' Russophobia. We got to have a modus vivendi, but I was born in Sweden, also with this big, powerful neighbor, and we had all our traditional wars against the then Russia, But even so, we got to respect them in the sense that it's a very powerful country and we better get on with them. And nowadays, at least a Christian, which is, well, I wrote this book. I advised the British government for Brexit. And I know that Prince William and his wife were recently here in Poland because they feel United Kingdom needs friends in this leaving the European Union. They are leaving the European Union, and this book was written a month before the vote, to wake up people to realize this is not an entirely happy organization. It was a good idea, but it was hijacked by people who do not want to promote traditional values. And the attack against Poland today, also by a Harvard professor of Polish origin, who wrote the most scathing attack, saying, you know, when you don't like people nowadays, you say ultra-right, extra-ultra-right, which doesn't really mean very much. Does it mean you're extra-ultra-right if you want to say, I'm a Catholic and I prefer this? Because you're not ultra-extra-right if you say, I'm a Muslim and, you know, I got to travel with my prayer mat. We are all fold over, being polite to them. But we are not allowed to say what... The cleverest thing the European Union has done is to try to persuade people that they are Europe. People in Poland and other post-communist countries say, we must join Europe. No, they are not standing up for European values. They are against that. They want Europe to be a jigsaw in some big globalist game, and I think people are waking up to realize they're up to no good.
Yes. The title is pretty strong, The Suicide of Europe. How would you explain this? Why you choose this title? What is the suicide?
The suicide is precisely what the European Union is doing, because they want to force us to accept half of Africa into our country. A normal person would say, why? There's 40% unemployment among young Spaniards, 20% or 25% overall. We don't need workers. So they say we got to help refugees. Of course we got to help refugees, but we can't help them all. And also we got to wake up, like Aristotle says, that quality changes with quantity. We're talking about 200 million people in Nigeria. We're talking about enormous numbers. Poland is a very big country, but you know, one question that I would like the government here to ask the EU and Juncker and the other very controversial people that running it, where is the competence in the Lisbon Treaty for forcing member states to accept refugees, if they are, most of them economic migrants? Where is the competence? I'm a lawyer. Where is the fundamental authorization to do that? I can't see that. And besides, I have, as a professional lawyer and double doctor in international law, I still have to find the official version of the Lisbon Treaty, because the British government only has an unofficial version that I could access at the Foreign Office. Why is that? One becomes suspicious. Why not publicize it everywhere? Like the Swiss did whenever they discuss something, they publish immediately in 2 seconds the basic treaty.
It's very strange.
No, it's worse than that. It's suspicious. If we are with Agatha Christie and Monsieur Poirot, you know, this is a plot of some sort. They have to work out how.
Yes, and what do you think? What is the source? What is behind all of these decisions, and what is wrong with Europe? Deep there, what is the problem of the Europe now?
Well, on what level do you mean that?
I mean, because the things you can analyze on the political sphere, on the economical sphere, but I think there is something deeper change in Europe, that Europe has is provoking so many crises, so many problems right now for the European citizens, for the people. You know.
Yeah, if you're not with the good people, if you're not with Jesus Christ, things start going wrong. Look at the communists. If you want to become poor, you become a communist. In 2 seconds, you'll become poor. If you want to become poor slowly, you become a socialist, because the scale is not so fast now with revolutionary turnovers. But it is, I think it is, I can see, I don't know what's behind it all, but because I have, as a lawyer, I am naturally suspicious, and I like detective stories. And what I can see is that why is everything happening all of a sudden? It seems to be some conjecture against what is good. And I recognize certain features that I remember you see in communism. Deprive people of their history, of their local pride of their nation, break the family, mock, like Lenin said, our best weapon is to mock people. And then that really becomes nasty. But I went to supper once with a Russian member of the Duma, and this is way back in 91, 92. But he was an important person, and I come to his home, and it's a great honor to be invited to dinner. I sit down in a sofa with a coffee table, and they give me an aperitif, and then they say, now we're going to eat. So I start getting up, and they say, no, we'll eat here. And unless you're an undergraduate, I'm not used to eating with the plate on my lap, unless we have a picnic, And I realized they say this because they haven't got a table. My view of paradise is to sit round a big table with my big, enormous family. I have 5 children and 15 grandchildren. That sense I'm rich. And they're all there. No one's in a rush. No one has to go and look at television or play games. And we're there in peace because we are sitting around the table. Now, if you want to break the family, that's an excellent idea. Take away the family table and let everyone have an iPhone with lots of games on them. Yeah. And you will break up the family. Yeah. So we got to limit this. I hear that in Lyon, there is a clinic where you can go and get an IT detox cure. That's to say that when you wake up, you don't immediately want to switch on your iPhone and see what invitations you have or what messages you have. Because people are becoming dependent on this. And that's the first thing I would do to repair Europe. And I also remember John Paul II, I'm very fond of him. And I think of him every day. And I wrote this, that's mainly for the family, this book, because we had so many photographs of our family and him. It's a great honor. I remember one of my children said, to meet the Pope once, but we met him several times. I mean, it is a miracle, especially since he's a saint. I mean, how many of us can say you've shaken the hand of a saint? Not once, but several times. And I feel that he always bent down, as you remember, to kiss the earth when he came to a new country. Respect your country, respect your heritage, remember your roots. And if you do that, you will feel that you have the self-confidence to say, I protest, I don't agree, I think you may be mistaken. Otherwise, we will become like sheep in this unidentified European Union. We are, on the passport, they're making the European Union bigger and the crest of the country smaller. Why? Why? I mean, it's like the other side here. They want to absorb all the countries and we're not allowed. So, and at the same time, they wanted to publish a common history book for England and France. What's happening to Napoleon and Wellington, I mean, which means, I suppose, if you have the common denominator of everything, it's just going to be very bland. It's like education's got to be very bland. 2 + 2 is not necessarily 4. Sometimes Einstein says it's 5, Everything will be diluted. In Sweden, people learned one language when I went to school, I learned English, French, German, Latin and philosophy. It was a wonderful education. And now we've got to be bland. I'm going to be fascinated to see what they do after Brexit in the EU, because they all speak English between themselves, you know.
That's funny.
So, yeah, that's going to be the irony of it.
Okay, so you said that from your experience, to keep the roots, to keep the tradition, to keep the local tradition, to keep the local the nation tradition it can be a solution, can be the way out of this crisis.
Well, I think without us doing very much, I actually predict that the European Union will collapse, because there are too many tensions, there are too much hostility to the European Union within the people who still think of themselves as Poles or even Italians, which is a recently united, recently in terms of eternity, recently united country. But you know, they have become too bossy, they have become too focused on inessential, stupid, formalistic rules. They invade our privacy, they want to decide everything. You know, they have nothing else to do but to think up stupid rules. And, you know, it's become, you know, you can't have a vacuum cleaner that is efficient, because that's too dangerous for the CO2 and the environment. I mean, what idiotic idea, right? And at the same time, I have an environmental institute, and I get about 100 emails every day that I go delete, 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 delete. Invitations to Tokyo, Cape Town, Los Angeles, Rio de Janeiro for a conference about environment. Hundreds of people go in aeroplanes to these conferences, spitting out CO2 all over the globe, and they're going to talk about global warming. You know, well, stay put then, stay at home, you know, because we will save a lot of these gases rather than going around in aeroplanes, thousands of delegates, and all paid for by the states or by the EU, like to promote this too. And people, I want a word of warning, people who think the EU is rich, they have not a penny of their own. They got our money. And Robin Hood took money from the rich and gave to the poor. European Union take money from the rich, keep half of it, and give some away in sort of areas where we don't even know what happened to the money. Yeah. But they're certainly not rich. They're trying to get billions out of the United Kingdom, but I don't think they realized that they are facing an uphill struggle. Because before even England wriggles out of the network of the European Union, I am almost sure there will be other states that will protest, and the whole, you see, we might follow an economic crisis with the euro, and whatever they do, they haven't got the power or the skills to keep up an artificial organization like this forever.
What do you think, for example, about the Greece crisis? Will it continue? And can it be the kind of a cause for the collapse of euro and definite collapse of the European economy?
Well, ironically, Greece is the cradle of democracy. All our words like democracy comes from that language. Yes. And, you know, they are not to be underestimated in their resourcefulness. And I think that money is often the thing that will trigger other developments. But what is basically wrong, as I see it, there's something wrong in the system if you can't use the word patriot, if you're not allowed to have, like I used to have a holiday on 6th of November because Gustavus Adolphus died at Lützen in the war, the 30th year war. We had a holiday on the 30th November, the hero King Charles XII died in Norway, possibly shot by one of his own, you know, and that sort of thing, that around the statue of Charles XII, you're not allowed to gather. The police will come and break up because it's going to be an ultra-right demonstration, because they're nationalistic. No, they're patriots. And ironically, the Swedish Foreign Office is at the square of Gustavus Adolphus. But Swedes don't know much history now, so they don't even realize they're in the square of the one that used to have a compulsory school holiday. No, it's. I think I still have some hope for Poland, because Poland, you are brave, you say what you think, and you're not going to be bossed around. And as I sometimes think that you've been invaded, some of my ancestors came down and invaded you, yeah? And I sometimes say to my Polish friends, at least your possession is in safety at the Historical Museum in Stockholm, or the communists would have ruined it all. And then you had the Germans, and you had the Russians, and you can see it's a cross. So cheer up, you're on the right path.
Okay. What would you suggest to Polish people and the Polish government in this situation of the kind of very dark future for Europe, for Christianity? What do you suggest to?
No, future is bright. Future is bright. We're just going to get rid of the communist red sun. That the evening sun pales in comparison with this light, that the color that idiotic ideology has brought the world. And we got to just look out and recognize when people call themselves other things, but it's still a sort of communist structure, communist ideology. Forget about God. Be careful, just be like everyone else, don't protest, fall in line, be a lamb, become a zombie if you wish. And then, I think the courageous Pole will wake up, and it's going on everywhere, this uprising of normal people who feel there's something wrong here, Why can't we just be friends? Why can't we just have trade? Oh, one thing that many people got wrong. They're under the illusion that we travel around Europe because of the EU. I am, if I call myself that, I just might make sure, because my age doesn't change, you see, it's the same every year. It has been for a long time, and I sometimes can't even remember more than I bore the 24th of November, but the year doesn't really matter. But I'm a pre-EU person, and I traveled around. In fact, it was easier. I remember going to a school in Switzerland with my sister, going by train from Stockholm to Geneva without changing. You could go from Paris, should you wish, to go to Baghdad 100 years ago. Yeah. And now, no, you got to get off and change everywhere. In fact, it's become more difficult to travel. I went to Oxford, where I taught for many years, and where I became a don and did a doctorate. But long before the EU was a member, UK was a member of the EU. There's no problem about that. Now, if you look like a total gangster and you come with your machine gun on your back, or bow and arrow, or your sword, or whatever, of course you'll have problems going anywhere, whether it's now or then. But if you see what people confuse, especially in Poland, is that what happened after the fall of communism, things became easy to travel. But for those of us who were not in communist country, like I lived in Sweden and in Italy and in France and in England, and this is before EU and before the fall of communism, it was just like it is now. In England, you still...
No borders was a kind of the slogan that was really put very much, promoted very much here, just to bring this idea of the European Union, that everything be united, no borders, no barriers, no...
No, because half of our money goes to propaganda for themselves. Yeah. Very much like the communist system, they spent a lot of money promoting themselves, and we are the good ones, and you better obey, and you're on a good thing. We'll help you all. You don't have to do anything. You don't even have to work. We'll pay you. I get paid for not growing wheat on a country estate in Sweden. And now I got grass there, and I have to cut it, otherwise I get the wood coming in, and I can't even get hold of a tractor. My neighbor, who used to have 500 cows, is paid by the EU not to have 500 cows. So he makes lamps now for Conran in London. And I can't find a tractor in the whole area. Sweden, that used to be self-sufficient. This is suicide. Why? Sweden was, now we have to import butter from Denmark. And you know, I live mostly in France. I talk a lot about Sweden in this talk, but I feel I am multinational in the good sense. But wherever I go, I take with me my values. And if people trying to stop me, you know, I remind them of their duties under what shall I call it? I just written a book where I call it intrinsic law. You know, that everyone knows what's right and wrong. You don't really need the written word, you know. If you feel, you know, after the age of 8 at least, probably earlier, what's right and wrong. Yes. As I often say, I love Poland more than many Poles, because I think you got a wonderful country, and above all, you got courageous people. And I'm not going to allow you to be bossed around by Herr Juncker, whose father was with the Black Party, and I hear. If it's true, I don't know. How does one check? But he was apparently a Nazi officer. So he must have had some discipline from his home, clicking his heels. And if he clicks his heels to me, I will accept it as a sort of a courteous way of saying hello. But you know, these people are, as I say in my book, many of them are not even educated, or they've taken degrees in subjects that don't really matter. Yeah. Well, I hope I've been enormously provocative now, because it is my aim to wake up people.
Very good.
Make people get...
Thank you very much.